Being a popular anime and manga series, Bleach has become synonymous with overpowered abilities, boasting a vast array of unique powers that have left a lasting impression on fans. The series creator Tite Kubo has masterfully created numerous distinctive abilities that not only tie into their characters' personalities, but also have a profound connection to their story arcs. Some of these abilities, such as those of the Zanpakuto like Wabisuke and Hinako, have a straightforward nature, and it makes them easy to understand. However, other abilities are incredibly complex and intricate, leaving fans pondering about their mechanisms and implications long after they have appeared within the story. The abilities that feature within Bleach display a wide range of complexity, power, and scale, which begs the question, which one stands out the best amongst the rest? In this video, I'm going to embark on a journey to explore and rank the top 5 best abilities in the Bleach world. While ranking these abilities, I'm going to be concentrating on the inherent powers and characteristics of each of them, rather than the strength or skill of the individual who wields it. Moreover, we're going to evaluate the versatility of these abilities in various situations, going beyond the scope of just their raw power. Now, it's important to note that the way that these abilities were utilized within the narrative isn't going to heavily influence their rankings on this top 5 list. However, we're going to refer to their usage in the story in order to provide context and to explain their function. So with all of this said, let's dive into my ranking of the top 5 best abilities in Bleach. Coming in at the number 5 spot is the Fullbringer Tsukishima's ability, the Book of the End. Now, this is quite possibly one of the most creative abilities in the entire series. It makes its first appearance within chapter 440 during the Fullbring arc, and it's a Fullbring based ability, allowing Tsukishima to insert himself into the past of his victims. When he isn't using this power, it takes up the form of a bookmark, which is a very clever representation of its power. Just as a bookmark marks a reader's progress within a book, Tsukishima's Book of the End ability does the same with his victims' memories. Essentially, he replaces the book with the person's memories, and the bookmark becomes Tsukishima himself, making it clear just how this ability functions. What makes this power truly terrifying is not just its ability to manipulate memories, but the extent to which it does so. The Book of the End doesn't just insert Tsukishima randomly into the past, it replaces the most important person within the victim's life with Tsukishima. As a result, he instantly becomes the most important individual in his victim's life, gaining their loyalty, and he can even use this power on inanimate objects. However, the ability's effectiveness is limited by the presence of a crucial person in the victim's life, which means that it may not work on self-absorbed characters like Aizen or Yhwach. Due to Tsukishima's ability to alter memories, it grants him a deep knowledge of those memories, making him intimately familiar with his enemy's abilities and techniques. Now, the most dangerous aspect of this power is its side effect. A clash occurs between the original memory and the altered one within the victim's mind, and if left unchecked, it leads to complete destruction of their mental state. The main drawback of the Book of the End is that Tsukishima must be fast enough to land a hit on his opponent for the ability to take effect. Its devastating power becomes useless if the user cannot strike their target. Despite this weakness, the Book of the End is still a formidable ability with minimal room for defense, making it a fitting choice to start off our ranking list. Next up, we have the devastating abilities of the monk who calls the name Ichibei, with his Bankai Shirafude Ichimonji combined with his Zanpakuto's Shikai powers. Now, this is the first Zanpakuto ability on our list. In my explained videos, I've made it evident that names hold significant importance within the world of Bleach. They act as conceptual anchors for an individual's power and their existence. Therefore, an ability that can affect names has the potential to greatly impact the hierarchy of power. Despite being ranked in the 4th spot of this list, there's a compelling reason for this choice. Ichimonji, with its brush-like appearance, releases black ink with each sword swing. It may initially appear as an artistic display, but the true power of Ichimonji's ink lies in its ability to erase an individual's concept of their self upon making contact with the target. Now, this ink completely removes the name of anyone or anything that it touches, along with all the powers and abilities associated with the name's owner. From supernatural powers to physical abilities like strength, speed, and intellect, everything's at the mercy of this ink. For many fighters, having this ability in their arsenal would guarantee victory because it can reduce opponents to mere punching bags. However, Shirafude Ichimonji takes it one step further. With its white ink on its bristle tip, it enables the user to give a new name to the now nameless being. By assigning this new name, the recipient gains all powers and capabilities tied to that name. For example, if someone is given the name of a black ant, they will gain the intelligence, strength, and durability of an actual black ant, and unlike Spider-Man's situation where he conveniently gains the proportionate strength of a spider, thankfully the victim of this power does not gain the scaled up strength of a black ant. This fearsome and destructive ability can essentially end any fight. However, it does have two weaknesses. Firstly, it is ineffective against beings who possess a fragment of the Soul King's body. Secondly, similar to the Book of the End, this power relies heavily on the user's ability to hit their opponent. Although very few characters can claim to be faster than Ichibei, this limitation does however exist. To land a hit, not only does the user need the speed, but also fully functional senses in order to detect and see their opponent. Now this becomes increasingly challenging, especially when faced with the power of our third ranked ability. Firmly securing the number 3 spot, we have the absolute hypnosis of Kyoka Suigetsu. This iconic ability belongs to an equally iconic villain, and it's the second Zanpakuto ability on this ranking list. Kyoka Suigetsu has the power to completely dominate the senses of anybody who falls under its spell. Typically, an ability as potent as this would have a complex activation requirement in order to balance out its immense power. However, all that it takes to activate Kyoka Suigetsu is a mere glimpse of the sword's release. Even more concerning is that after Aizen's battle against Ichigo, it appears that the activation condition has become even simpler, because now you simply just have to look at Aizen in order to be under the spell of Kyoka Suigetsu. Remarkably, once someone falls under Kyoka Suigetsu's absolute hypnosis, they remain affected indefinitely. For example, the Vizards who had seen it release a century ago were still under its influence 100 years later. In order to avoid succumbing to this power, one must either avoid seeing its release or even looking at Aizen. This leads us to its main weaknesses. Kyoka Suigetsu is ineffective against blind people, and in order to escape its influence, one must touch the blade before Aizen releases it. However, due to Aizen's overwhelming power, accomplishing this feat is very challenging. Another potential weakness is that the ability appears to drain the user's spiritual pressure, but this isn't much of a problem for Aizen since he has an untapped supply of spiritual pressure thanks to the Hokyoku. Now this detail is revealed to us within the Can't Fear Your Own World light novels, so the potency of the illusions created by Kyoka Suigetsu are dependent upon the user's spiritual pressure. In conclusion, Kyoka Suigetsu is a very powerful ability, with its true potential realized through Aizen's immense spiritual pressure that he has. I've ranked it above Ichimonji's abilities because it doesn't rely on landing a hit on the opponent, something that Kyoka Suigetsu can easily overcome. While Ichimonji's powers are undoubtedly fearsome, the sheer versatility of absolute hypnosis makes it even more valuable in my opinion. In the number 2 spot, we have the Sternritter Gremmy's ability, the Visionary. Although this ability's power primarily stems from Gremmy's exceptional brain, it remains one of the most formidable abilities within Bleach. With the Visionary, it's more appropriate to ask what it can't do rather than what it can do. The ability allows its user to materialize whatever they imagine into reality. Sadly, this godlike power didn't reach its full potential, as it was wielded by an inexperienced child. Nonetheless, its power was evident through Gremmy's ability to create life, entire galaxies, and even heal the most severe wounds with just a thought. The Visionary possesses an incredibly high power ceiling, if you could even call it that, but it comes with some intriguing limitations that may serve to counterbalance its immense power. First, it demands extreme care during use, as the user could accidentally imagine their own death and inadvertently kill themselves. Secondly, it needs constant focus in order to maintain certain abilities, such as matter transmutation. Otherwise, the transmuted substance will revert to its original state if the user loses concentration. Now this is in reference to when Grammy had transformed Yachiru's bones into cookies, and Kenpachi was able to distract him, thus returning Yachiru's bones back to normal. Lastly, the Visionary requires extreme precision when using abilities like power mimicry, as the user must also imagine a body sturdy enough to handle those powers, as demonstrated when Gremmy had tried to mimic the full potential of Kinpachi's power, but had failed to realize that his body is unable to contain that much raw power, and this is what had ultimately led to the Sternritter's defeat. However, none of these weaknesses that I've talked about detract from the fact that the Visionary still outshines all of the powers that I've talked about before it. With the Visionary, one could effortlessly eliminate the users of any one of those abilities that are ranked below it. Consequently, the Visionary is a truly remarkable and versatile ability with very few weaknesses that could easily be overcome if only the user was experienced and wasn't a child like Gremmy. Now, before I reveal the number 1 ranked best ability in Bleach, let's go over some honorable mentions. These abilities had every opportunity to make it onto the main rankings of this video, but had fallen short for one reason or another. The first honorable mention goes to Orihime's Sonten Keshun, an ability capable of rejecting phenomena. Its true potential remains unclear, as it is primarily used for healing, but this power has been demonstrated to revive the dead in certain conditions, proving it to be an indispensable ability within the story. Our next honorable mention is Soifon's Nigeki Kisatsu. This ability enables her to instantly kill an opponent by striking them twice in the same spot. From this description alone, you can tell that it's very formidable. However, it heavily relies on the speed and spiritual pressure of its user, thus making its requirement for activation one of its biggest weaknesses. Following this is the Espada Barragan's ability Respire. It's a truly terrifying ability that ages whatever it touches to the point of death. Despite its power, it is a slow ability that can be outpaced by a swift opponent, and not to mention the fact that the caster of Respire is vulnerable to its power, which makes it a bit less unstoppable than those that have made it onto this ranking list. The next honorable mention goes to Enra Kyoten's power mimicry, which I feel like is definitely worth talking about. I think it stands to reason that despite its weaknesses, Enra Kyoten's ability to mimic the power of any Shikai is truly insane, and it most definitely deserves some recognition. The next honorable mention goes to Ugram Hashwald's The Balance. It's a notable ability allowing him to redirect anything that he deems to be misfortune. It is a frightening power, but it requires an existing advantage held by the enemy over its user. Like if an opponent was able to deflect or block an attack, he can swap out their fortune for misfortune, resulting in his attack successfully making contact with the opponent. Primarily, it is suited for combat and it lacks versatility outside of fighting, unlike the ranked abilities that have made it onto this list. Now, the final honorable mention goes to Gerard Valkyrie's Shrift The Miracle. It is a unique power that allows him to convert damage into power, providing him with limitless growth potential and even immortality. However, due to the unexplored aspects of this ability, it's difficult to fully gauge the extent of its power. If its potential were to be further explored and understood, I think that the Miracle could prove to be an even more formidable force than what we have seen within the Bleach manga. Securing the number 1 spot is Yhwach's power, the Almighty. It's an immense, powerful, and highly debated ability wielded by Bleach's final antagonist. This extraordinary power transcends the capabilities of any other ability in Bleach, even including the Visionary, as it allows its user to peer into the distant future and navigate through multiple potential timelines in order to manifest their desired outcome. The Almighty's versatility doesn't just end here. It has the unique ability to render any power or technique aimed at Yhwach in the future to become completely ineffective, because the Almighty allows him to already foresee and adapt to any power. It doesn't matter if you can trick him into believing you're his childhood friend, he's already seen it coming and it's not going to work. Even if, like Ichibei, you're able to erase his name and kill him, he is able to use the Almighty in order to resurrect himself after he's been killed. Moreover, the Almighty can enhance any attack by ensuring it hits the intended target, no matter how physically improbable this may seem. Standing unrivaled within the Bleach universe, the ability has very specific weaknesses that are almost impossible to exploit. One of these weaknesses involves eliminating Hashwald, who at the time will be wielding a slightly less powerful version of the Almighty. Now, this strategy merely replaces one formidable problem with a slightly less overwhelming one. The second weakness involves the use of a metal that is so rare and so small, it would take almost a decade of prep time to actually make it. I'm of course talking about the Silver of Stillness that's formed within the hearts of any victim of a Schwallen, and subsequently the arrowhead that Ryuken had created, which had allowed Ichigo to to land the final blow and to defeat Yhwach. Now, taking all of these factors into account, the Almighty is a supremely potent ability with weaknesses that are way too specific to realistically capitalize on. This incredible power is unmatched in its capacity to control and manipulate the future, and it solidifies its position as the most powerful ability in all of Bleach. In summary, Bleach is a series filled with awe-inspiring powers and abilities, each with their own specific strengths and weaknesses. We've explored quite a few within this video, and I hope that you've enjoyed my top 5 abilities list, delving into the specific strengths and limitations of several of the most powerful abilities in Bleach. We talked about everything from Shirafude Ichimonji's name-altering powers to Yhwach's ability to alter the future with the Almighty. I'd love to hand over the discussion now to all of you. Were there any abilities that I failed to mention on this list that you think are deserving of being a top 5 ability? Also, I'd love to know how you guys would have ranked these abilities differently. So definitely continue the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach ranking video.
If you enjoy my content, then you can support my channel through Patreon for as little as $1 a month, or even through YouTube by becoming a channel member. You will gain access to exclusive channel perks and a Discord server which I frequently use. So become a member of my Zero Division and be the first to know about my upcoming videos. And once again, thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.